Good afternoon. I'm Dan DeRose with 19 News, coming to you from our digital desk, and we want to continue our conversation about two Cleveland Guardian pitchers who are now facing some very serious federal charges when it comes to that gambling investigation. Of course, we saw the announcement a couple of weeks ago in regards to a number of NBA players and coaches, but this is closer to home. Now, we have seen both Emmanuel Clase and Luis Ortiz. They were suspended or at least relieved from the team with pay about halfway through the season, and it comes down to some very questionable pitches that were thrown that also had some large betting numbers on them. If you don't know, a lot of gambling apps and websites, you can even bet on usually prop bets. In this case, it's the first pitch of any given inning. And the big pitch in question for Ortiz was from June 30th when he came out and threw a pitch about 10 to 12 feet in front of the plate in the dirt. And there just happened to be a lot of Vegas action or sportsbook action on that particular pitch. That was one of several that have been called into question. Now both Clase and Ortiz are facing federal charges. Of course, innocent until proven guilty. The attorney for Ortiz, who's expected in court in Boston today in federal court, his attorney has come out and said he is innocent of all charges, and we'll have to wait and watch this play out in the courts. We're going to welcome in as an expert on this topic, Jeff Zochodny. He is with Covers.com. That is a sports betting news and information website. You can go there to see what the over-unders are, the scores of several different sports out there. Jeff, we appreciate you joining us. How are you today?
I'm doing well, thanks. Thanks for having me on.
Hey, let me just start because we are here in Cleveland. This is not a good look. Let me just put it out there like that.
No, it definitely isn't a good look. And it has a lot of people concerned, and those concerns are now, as you pointed out, they're in the backdrop of other sports betting related incidents we've seen lately. And so you just have to think whatever concern was there before, probably going to be ratcheted up a little bit.
What do we know? And I want your expert opinion. You are a senior news analyst for Covers.com. That pitch that I referenced, the June 30th Ortiz pitch that bounces 10 feet in front of the plate, you've seen some of the others, the accusations against Clase, who used to be a phenomenal first pitch strike pitcher, but all of a sudden those stats fell back. Is there merit here for people who maybe don't watch baseball pitch by pitch? Is there merit to this case?
Well, again, you pointed out that everything is still alleged at this point. That they're gonna, everyone's gonna have their day in court, and these charges can, they'll be able to dispute them. But the case that was laid out on Sunday in this indictment that was unsealed was very, very, again, concerning. And when you connect that with the wagering that also was included in this indictment, the amount of money that was allegedly being wagered in connection with these pitches, then it does make you think, there might be something worth looking at here. And so again, while nothing yet proven in court, everyone's still innocent. What has been laid out here by law enforcement clearly caught the eye of a lot of people, and had now been elevated up to the chain to the point now that we're seeing federal charges.
I want you to explain the amount of wagering for people who aren't sports bettors. They think, wow, don't you just bet on the Guardians to win or lose? Explain this particular prop bet and how much action was there on some of these pitches.
Yeah, we've really seen an evolution of sports betting away from what you may historically think about it as, from the point spread or the total on a game, how many points will be scored, to now we're getting into more exotic props, such as whether someone's going to score a touchdown on a game, and then even from there, we're seeing a growing area of business that we would call micro betting or micro prop betting, where they are outcomes that are not tied to the total outcome of the game, that are very specific. So in some instances for football, what's the outcome of the next drive going to be? Is going to be a touchdown? Will it be a punt? And then in some cases, there are very, very small micro betting markets, such as what will be the outcome of the next pitch? How fast is it going to be thrown? And so in this instance, in this indictment, it was pointed out that there were these pitches where people were wagering 4, 5 figure sums on whether it was going to be a ball, how fast that pitch was going to be coming. And what it's alleged is that bettors were able to make, around $450,000 in winnings making these bets.
That sort of implies, and again, we've said it a couple of times now, innocent until proven guilty. But the sort of train of thought is that if you're a pitcher who knows, hey, I'm going to tell my buddy to bet big on the first pitch of the third inning because I'm going to throw it in the dirt. And if he knows that, what kind of an advantage? I know this is going to sound dumb. I'm throwing you a softball here. What kind of an advantage if you had a personal connection to one of these players?
Yeah, it would obviously be a huge advantage for you, especially if you are aware of these micro betting markets, as we would call them. That would be some hugely important information to know. And as we can see by what's alleged in the indictment, it can be potentially very profitable information to know if you know how to make the right bets, if you know where to go with them. And so um, that is why I think you're seeing the severity of what's being laid out here, and why we've seen this kind of this announcement made with some very condemning statements made by law enforcement here, in that it goes right to the heart of the integrity of the game, these allegations. And so it's very concerning, and again, all alleged at this point, but it's something that I think a lot of people, whether they are gambling regulators or the leagues themselves, they're taking a long look at this today and wondering to themselves, what should we be doing here?
And is this just the beginning? I mean, that was a huge domino that fell a couple of weeks ago with the NBA accusations that were made. Does this go further? Is this obviously now Major League Baseball? Does this stretch into the NFL? Is this perhaps maybe a wake-up call that prop bets, yikes, there's a lot of danger here?
I think it's hard to say, because there are two different type of incidents, really. Like they're kind of sports specific in what's being alleged, and some of them date back. These allegations go back a few years, and now that we've had these allegations come to light and charges being filed, you would have to think that there would hopefully be some kind of deterrence now, that if you are an athlete in these major leagues, that you have a very good impression of what might happen to you if you engage in this kind of alleged activity. There are some very strong examples that our law enforcement is trying to make, and that could be further made. So I'm not really sure about how much further it will spread. I will say that regulators and sportsbook operators are getting very adept at detecting suspicious wagering activity. And so it could be that you have a situation where more comes to light because people are getting better and smarter about looking for that suspicious wagering activity and pairing it to people that they think are bad actors. So I'm not sure about, if we're going to see, a different league every week, that kind of thing, something popping up. But we have had a series of incidents over these past few weeks, and part of it is tied to the fact that people are getting better at finding it and knowing what to look for.
And it is those massive bets. We've had a conversation about this just even here in the newsroom amongst Guardians fans. Boy, you really had to get greedy in doing this. I mean, first of all, illegal all the way around if this is what was happening. But you couldn't have bet just $100, $500, $1,000 if you had this kind of inside information. But to be betting, 5 figures on something that could win you $450,000, you can see where the greed was really coming into play here. Just not smart enough to keep it to a low wager. Jeff, we always give the final word here to our guests. If you're a Guardians fan, if you're a Major League Baseball fan, dark day, I guess I could put it that way.
It is, and I would say that hopefully it is, darkest before the dawn, and you will see, you'll be able to, rest easier, because there are going to be changes, I think, that are going to be coming down the pike from Major League Baseball, perhaps from state regulators. Even the governor's office in Ohio is watching the situation and is interested in seeing changes. So I would say stay tuned for sure. There is going to be more news, and not all of it allegations having to do with decision makers in the state and perhaps across the U.S.
Yeah, and in covering Ohio Governor Mike DeWine's comments, he has already said that he has had a conversation with the commissioner of Major League Baseball. He was asking Ohio Governor Mike DeWine to pump the brakes just a little bit, that once he got through the World Series, that the commissioner of Major League Baseball actually wanted to have a conversation with the heads of all of the major sports to see if this is something they need to get in front of and get rid of before each state then has to go through and try and regulate it with legislation. Jeff Zakhodny with Covers.com, we certainly appreciate your expertise. Thanks for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
All right, take care. Again, because this is such an issue that is close to home, we wanted to look a little deeper into it. We have heard from the Guardians that they are aware of the situation, that they are cooperating with the investigation, all the usual things that we'd expect to hear. Now, the reason I didn't show you any of those pitches that are pretty blatantly bad missed pitches is, well, there's some copyright issues. We can't show you Major League Baseball highlights here on our digital properties. Otherwise, we would have shown you. You could have made up your mind on your own. But of course, this will now be up to a judge. We're going to wrap this up. We have 3.5 hours of news and first alert weather. Of course, a little bit of snow in our area for the first time this season. So you'll want to tune in to see how much longer we can expect that. 3.5 hours of news and first alert weather coming up at 3 o'clock on Channel 19. Until then, I'm Dan DeRosa with 19 News. Hope you have a great day.